Welcome back to United Zoom, your home for the deepest, most insightful football analysis on the planet. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop a like on this video, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from and who you think will win tonight's absolute blockbuster. Today, we're breaking down what could be the tie of the entire Champions League season. Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. The second leg. Bayern leading 2-1 from the first leg at the Bernabeu. Everything is on the line. And if you grew up in the late 90s or early 2000s like many of us did, you know there's no fixture in European football that carries more weight, more history, more pure drama than this one. Sure, other matchups come close. AC Milan have the history, but they've lost their consistency at the top level. Juventus have been there in the big moments, but too often they've fallen just short when it mattered most. Liverpool have had their moments of glory, absolutely, but not enough of these defining, iconic two-legged battles that shape entire generations of football fans. And Barcelona, for different reasons, simply haven't crossed paths with Real Madrid often enough on the Champions League stage to create that same level of anticipation. But Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich? This one feels different. This feels like a genuine European Classico, a clash of titans, a meeting of royalty. Two clubs who have defined what it means to compete at the absolute highest level of club football for decades. And yet, recent history hasn't been kind to Bayern Munich at all. Real Madrid have had the upper hand for years now, dominating this fixture, breaking Bayern hearts time and time again in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. We all remember the painful exits, the last-minute goals, the Sergio Ramos headers, the Cristiano Ronaldo masterclasses. Bayern fans have suffered through this rivalry more than they care to admit. But this time, something fundamental has shifted. The narrative has changed. Bayern arrive at the Allianz Arena tonight with something they haven't had in this fixture for a very, very long time: genuine belief. And that belief isn't built on hope or wishful thinking. It's built on a statement result. A historic victory at the Santiago Bernabeu, their first win in that intimidating stadium in over 25 years. That alone changes absolutely everything about the psychology of this tie. The weight of history is still there, absolutely pressing down on both sets of players. But now, so is genuine, tangible belief that Bayern can finish the job. Still, and this is crucial, if there's one team on planet Earth that can walk into any stadium, no matter how hostile, no matter the circumstances, no matter the deficit, and turn everything around in the most spectacular fashion, it's Real Madrid. That's simply what they do. That's what this competition has taught us over and over and over again, to the point where it's become almost predictable in its unpredictability. The Champions League is Madrid's competition. It runs through their veins like blood. 14 European Cups don't lie. This club has a relationship with this tournament that borders on the supernatural. So tonight isn't just about current form or recent momentum or who played better last week. This is about something deeper, something more fundamental. It's about how these two incredible teams create their decisive moments. Who forces chaos onto their opponents? Who controls that chaos when it erupts? And most importantly, who turns those chaotic, swirling, unpredictable moments into something concrete, something decisive, something that changes the scoreline and the tie? Tonight at the Allianz Arena, Bayern Munich host Real Madrid with a slender 2-1 advantage from the first leg. Kickoff is at 9 p.m. Central European Time. And in this deep dive analysis, we're going to look at exactly how both sides use their main attacking weapons through three specific tactical lenses: chaos, control, and efficiency. What their patterns in the final third reveal, what their key players bring to these critical moments, and ultimately, what all of this tells us about how this absolutely massive tie could be decided over 90 minutes of the most intense football you'll see all season. Let's start with what I call the chaos factor. Every genuinely elite team, every team that competes consistently at the absolute pinnacle of European football, needs what we call a chaos agent. Not just someone who can beat a defender in a one-on-one situation. That's basic stuff. We're talking about someone who can create something out of absolutely nothing, who can turn stable, controlled, predictable situations into unstable, unpredictable, dangerous ones in the blink of an eye. At the highest level of football, that ability is often the difference between winning and losing the biggest trophies. It's also, interestingly, where some leagues fall short when we compare them to others. There's structure, absolutely. There's tactical control, positional discipline, all of that. But not always that one player who completely breaks the script, who makes defenders panic, who forces teams to abandon their carefully laid plans. And maybe that's part of why teams like Liverpool, despite their quality, have struggled at certain times this season when their usual patterns haven't worked. Luis Diaz is a perfect example of this profile. He hasn't always delivered in raw statistical output, in goals and assists on the spreadsheet. But what he constantly injects into Liverpool's play is pure unpredictability, both when he has the ball and when he's moving off it, creating space, dragging defenders out of position, making things happen that weren't supposed to happen according to the opposition's defensive plan. But here's the key tactical point. Chaos doesn't mean giving players complete freedom to do whatever they want all over the pitch. The best versions of these chaos profiles are actually controlled. You maintain your position within the team structure. You trust that structure. You don't abandon your responsibilities. But when the ball reaches you in your specific zone, that's when you break everything. That's when the chaos erupts and defenders have nightmares. Two players in tonight's match embody this philosophy perfectly, and this individual battle could absolutely decide the entire tie. Vinicius Jr. for Real Madrid and Luis Diaz for Bayern Munich. On their day, on their absolute best nights, both of these players are completely, utterly unplayable. High volume and dribbles, constant directness running at defenders, and most importantly, the ability to generate high-quality shots from situations that look completely unstable and unlikely to produce anything dangerous. That combination is an absolute nightmare for any defense in world football. Let's talk about Luis Diaz first, because Real Madrid will have a genuine, serious problem to solve here tonight. They're chasing this game. Remember, they need at least one goal, probably two, to feel comfortable. That means pushing higher up the pitch, committing more players forward, taking more risks. And that opens up exactly the kind of space that Luis Diaz absolutely thrives in. Whether it's wide isolations out on the left flank where he can take on his defender one-on-one, or those dangerous central movements at the edge of the box where he appears between the lines, his movement map from this season shows just how unpredictable and varied his positioning is. He doesn't just stay wide like a traditional winger waiting for the ball to come to him. He drifts inside constantly, linking play, combining with teammates. He drops deeper to receive the ball to feet when the build-up is struggling. And then suddenly, without warning, he reappears in the most dangerous zones, right at the edge of the penalty area, or even inside it. His goal in the first leg at the Bernabeu came from exactly that kind of intelligent, unpredictable movement. Defenders simply cannot lock him into one specific area of the pitch. He's everywhere, and that's what makes him so dangerous. And that's the fundamental tactical issue Madrid face. If they leave him in one-on-one situations on their right side, it becomes an incredibly high-risk matchup that could destroy them. Even when Carlo Ancelotti makes adjustments, like shifting defensive profiles around, moving players to different positions to try to contain him, the threat remains constant. Luis Diaz doesn't need perfect team structure around him to be effective. He creates his own moments out of nothing, and that's what makes him so valuable. Now let's talk about Vinicius Jr., because few players in world football divide opinion quite like this man. But nights like these massive Champions League knockout ties under the lights, these are absolutely built for him. He thrives in chaos, not just creating it, but sustaining it, repeating an action after action, constantly putting defenders under pressure until they crack. His positioning map is heavily concentrated on the left side, which makes his pattern fairly obvious to any opposing coach studying him. But here's the thing. Knowing what Vinicius is going to do doesn't make it any easier to actually stop him from doing it. Teams very rarely leave him isolated in one-on-one situations anymore, and there's a very good reason for that. He destroys isolated defenders. He makes them look silly. He humiliates them. What separates Vinicius from most other chaos-type players in world football is his efficiency. He doesn't just take on his defender for the sake of it, to showboat or to entertain the crowd. He consistently turns those dribbling actions into real, concrete danger. Shots, crosses, assists, goals. The numbers back it up season after season. The underlying data might lean slightly toward Luis Diaz in terms of pure volume of actions, but recent history in the biggest matches, leans heavily toward Vinicius Jr. On the absolute biggest stages, when the pressure is at its maximum, when everything is on the line, he delivers time and time again. That's just what he does. And that's what makes this individual battle so incredibly interesting from a tactical perspective. Two chaos profiles, two players capable of destroying defensive structures, but different expressions of that chaos, different ways of creating danger. Same ultimate threat to their opponents. Now let's move to what I call the control layer. And this is a part of the game that genuinely excites me as a football analyst more than almost anything else. Not control from deep positions, not the rhythm setters like Joshua Kimmich or Pedri who dictate the tempo of the game from central midfield with their passing and positioning. This is something different, something more specific, something more directly dangerous. This is control in the final third of the pitch. We're talking about players who don't just move the ball around mechanically, but who actively decide when attacks should accelerate, when they should pause and reset, and when they should become genuinely dangerous with a final action. The game doesn't just pass through them like a transit point. It fundamentally changes because of their decisions, their vision, their technique. I've always had a real soft spot for these profiles. The ones with flair and individual quality, absolutely, but also with intelligence, with tactical understanding, with game awareness. The classic number 10s, the wide playmakers, the creative hubs. Players who are capable of unlocking stubborn, organized defenses without forcing chaos every single time they touch the ball. There's a real sense of timing involved, what the French beautifully call la pause, that ability to know when to wait, when to slow everything down, and when to suddenly strike with pace and precision. In this game, two players stand out clearly as embodying this profile. Michael Ollis for Bayern Munich and Arda Güler for Real Madrid. Michael Ollis has been a revelation this season. He absolutely owns Bayern's right side. It's not just his position on the team sheet. It's his zone of tactical influence where everything flows through him. He can stay wide to provide width and stretch the defense. He can isolate defenders one-on-one when the situation calls for it. He can combine with teammates in tight spaces with quick 1-2s. Or he can drift inside into more central positions to link play. But unlike pure chaos players who do things randomly, there's clear structure and intention in everything Ollis does. His passes aren't hopeful or speculative. They're intentional, carefully weighted, often freeing teammates in genuinely advanced, dangerous positions. What really stands out when you analyze his performance data is not just the volume of his involvement, but the clarity of it. High involvement in attacking phases, extremely high number of key passes that lead directly to shots, and a constant, reliable presence in the final third. He doesn't just participate in attacks as one piece among many. He actively shapes them, determines their direction, controls their tempo. Ollis has taken a genuine step forward this season in his development. He's no longer just a talented winger with potential, someone we talk about as a prospect for the future. He's becoming a true controller of attacking phases in the present, right now, at the highest level of European football. Arda Güler, on the other hand, has been much harder to define and categorize. At first, when he arrived at Real Madrid with all that hype and expectation, it genuinely wasn't clear where he truly belonged in the tactical structure. Right winger? Classic number 10? Something fluid in between? Even within a squad absolutely stacked with world-class talent, his specific role felt uncertain, undefined, experimental. But recently, something has really clicked into place. Instead of trying to force him into one fixed position with rigid responsibilities, Carlo Ancelotti has given him freedom to roam, to drift, to find space. And that's where his profile suddenly makes complete sense. He's not about high volume of actions or physical dominance or winning duels. He's about timing and selection, choosing the right moment, making the right decision. His positioning map is much cleaner than Allianz, more selective and refined. Fewer total actions, but more deliberate ones, more carefully chosen interventions. He operates primarily in central areas, connecting different phases of play, and he chooses his moments to impact the game rather than trying to force things constantly. There are genuine similarities with how players like Bernardo Silva evolved in their careers, transitioning from wider profiles where they used pace and dribbling into more central, controlling roles where their football intelligence and decision-making become more valuable than their raw physical attributes. Güler doesn't dominate entire attacking phases like Allianz does yet. He's younger, still developing, still learning. But he controls specific moments beautifully. And in games that threaten to become unstable, chaotic, frantic, that ability to slow things down, to pick the right action, to make the intelligent choice under pressure, becomes extremely valuable. Both profiles bring control to their teams, but in fundamentally different ways. Allianz dictates the entire attack, constantly involved, constantly influencing. Güler selects the perfect moment to intervene decisively. And in a game like tonight that could swing violently between chaos and control, between structure and disorder, that difference in approach might matter more than anything else we've discussed. Now let's talk about what I call the efficiency edge, because as much as we try to focus on beautiful build-up play, tactical structure, or creative chaos, games at this level are often decided by the same profiles every single time. The finishers, the goal scorers, the ones who put the ball in the net. On a stage like the Champions League quarterfinals, these players simply don't miss their moment when it arrives. They can't afford to. And both teams tonight have absolute world-class options in this regard. Two current Ballon d'Or contenders. Two genuinely elite goal scorers operating at the absolute peak of their powers. Two players who have carried enormous attacking responsibility for years. Different profiles, different styles, same ultimate objective. Score goals that win massive football matches. One arrives to chances that are created for him. The other creates chances for himself out of nothing. And that fundamental contrast might define everything tonight. Harry Kane is the complete center forward. There's a level of completeness to his game that very few strikers in world football can genuinely match at this level. He scores goals. Obviously, that's his primary job, and he does it better than almost anyone. But he also builds attacks, drops deep, links play, creates for others. The deeper key passes, the assists from outside the penalty area, the hockey assists that don't show up in basic statistics, they all tell the same story. He's not just finishing attacking actions that others create for him. He's actively shaping those actions, making them possible through his movement and passing. What stands out most when you analyze his shot profile and shot map is the quality. Short distances from goal, central zones where the angles are best, high-quality attempts that you'd expect to result in goals. It's no surprise whatsoever that he consistently performs at an absolutely elite level season after season. If anything, when you look at the positions he gets into and the quality of chances he generates, it often feels like he could and should score even more than he already does. But that's also the fundamental tactical dilemma for Real Madrid tonight. How do you defend Harry Kane without destroying your entire defensive structure? Follow him deep when he drops to receive the ball, and you open up massive space for runners like Allianz, Diaz, Gnabry to exploit behind your defensive line. Stay compact and hold your defensive shape, and you leave Kane in positions where he very, very rarely wastes good chances. Containing Kane isn't just about defending one striker. It's about managing everything that happens around him, all the secondary movements, all the rotations, all the combinations. It's a nightmare. Kylian Mbappe operates in a completely different way, and understanding that difference is crucial. He's far less involved in general build-up play, much less connected to the overall structure. But he's infinitely more explosive when his moment arrives. He doesn't need many touches of the ball to be decisive, just the right one in the right time. His shot map shows that evolution clearly. Slightly left-oriented still, reflecting his natural tendency, but increasingly central as he's matured and developed. That evolution really matters tactically. The question around his role alongside Vinicius Jr. was genuine and valid last season. Could they coexist? Would they get in each other's way? Would it be too unbalanced? This season, it looks much more natural, much more balanced, much more sustainable. And in games like tonight, against high defensive lines, his profile becomes even more devastatingly dangerous. Bayern's tendency to play with a high line, to squeeze space, to be aggressive, will give Mbappe moments. Not many, perhaps, but enough. And when those moments come, when that ball drops into space behind the defense, he doesn't need a second invitation. He's gone, and he usually scores. He hasn't fully owned the Champions League yet, at least not in the way his extraordinary talents suggest he absolutely should. No Champions League title yet. No defining performance in a final. But nights like these massive knockout ties, these are built for statements, for announcements, for legends to be born. Two completely different profiles, but the same ultimate responsibility weighing on their shoulders. Kane controls the game and connects all the pieces. Mbappe accelerates instantly and finishes clinically. One increases the volume of good attacking situations his team generates. The other turns rare individual moments into absolutely decisive goals. And in a game where the margins will be impossibly thin, where one goal changes everything, that difference in approach might decide absolutely everything about who progresses to the semifinals. So let's bring all of this together and reach our conclusion. This isn't just Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. This isn't just another Champions League quarterfinal. This is a genuine clash of footballing philosophies, of different ways to create danger, of contrasting approaches to solving the same problem. How do you score more goals than your opponent in the biggest matches? Chaos can break the game wide open, shatter defensive structures. Control can shape it, bend it to your will. Efficiency can decide it in one ruthless moment. Luis Diaz and Vinicius Jr. will try to stretch this game, to pull it in different directions, to create chaos until something cracks and space opens up. Michael Ollis and Arda Güler will look to slow everything down, to choose the right moments with precision, to dictate the rhythm in the final third where games are won and lost. Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe will wait patiently for their moments to arrive and then turn them into something decisive, something that changes the scoreline and the tie. But games like this are never, ever just about six individual players, no matter how brilliant they are. Joshua Kimmich's control from deep midfield, Jude Bellingham's perfectly timed late runs into the box, Serge Gnabry's directness cutting inside, Trent Alexander-Arnold's delivery from wide positions. All of them can tilt the balance in seconds. The margins are too fine, the quality too high, the stakes too enormous. Real Madrid need chaos to come alive, to create the disorder they thrive in. Bayern Munich need control to hold firm, to manage the game. Both will rely absolutely on efficiency when those crucial moments arrive. And when everything is said and done, when the final whistle blows and one team celebrates while the other sits devastated on the pitch, it often comes down to just one moment, one decision, one perfect action at exactly the right time. So the question we're all asking ourselves as kickoff approaches is beautifully simple. Who imposes their way on the game tonight? Who stamps their identity on these 90 minutes? And most importantly, who delivers when it matters most? That's what we're about to find out at the Allianz Arena. Champions League football at its absolute finest. Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. Everything on the line. What are your predictions? Who goes through? Can Madrid pull off another miraculous comeback? Can Bayern finally exorcise their demons against Real Madrid? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to United Zoom, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our analysis of the biggest matches in world football. Thanks for watching and enjoy the match. This is United Zoom, signing off.